Stock market weekly chart review for August 15th through August 19th. In this video, we will be looking at the S&P 500, doing a weekly chart review for August 15th through August 19th. Why the S&P 500? Because the S&P 500 is made up of 500 stocks. In the S&P 500, whatever it's doing has a tendency to influence an individual stock that you may be looking at. So if the S&P 500 is moving down, it's kind of putting pressure on an individual stock to move down. If it's moving up, it's kind of helping your individual stock move up. So the S&P 500 is a great indicator to look at of what is happening in the overall stock market. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to look at the portfolio composition for the S&P 500, right? The portfolio composition. And we see here under holdings that we have the top 10 stocks of the S&P 500. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, Google, Google again, Berkshire Hathaway, United Health Group, Inc., Johnson & Johnson, and Nvidia. Now, out of these top 10, we have one, two, three that are not technology. So that already is giving us an indication that the most weighted stocks in the S&P 500 are in technology. Under here, we see the sector exposure. And this is going to show us what the various sectors that make up the S&P 500. And so, for example, information technology. Stocks in the information technology sector make up 27.96% of that. And then it just goes right down the list. So what I've done is I've found an ETF that is a technology ETF, healthcare ETF, consumer discretionary ETF, and a financial ETF. And between that, we're looking at a significant weight of the S&P 500. So we'll look at the S&P 500 itself. We'll look at these four other ETFs. And when we look at these together, we should have an idea of what might happen going forward in the future. Now, it's good to every so often to re-look at the portfolio composition of the S&P 500, because a couple years ago, it was what was giving a lot of weight to the S&P 500 was the financial sector, the semiconductors, and the small mid-cap stocks. But obviously that's changed. So every so often you want to re-look at how the S&P 500 is structured so you can look at the correlating ETFs. Now we're looking at a 2-year weekly chart, right? Here's 2 years, so the information goes back 2 years, and each candlestick, this red or green thing, is one week of trading time. So a whole trading week is comprised into here. If you were to break it down, each candle down, you could look at what happened on a daily basis. Of course, you could go down even deeper into the day, into hours and minutes and things like that. And you could go the opposite way. You could look at a monthly chart. So if we look at the monthly chart, weekly chart, and a daily chart, the weekly is kind of in the middle. The weekly is going to give us a good picture of what's happening. Where the monthly is a very big picture. The daily it's pretty fine-tuned. The weekly is kind of right in between there. So with that being said, we have our four different ETFs: technology, healthcare, consumer discretionary, and financials, with the S&P 500. Now, last week I had said that I think the S&P 500 is going to get close to or touch this 50-day moving average. And if you want, in a moment, you can pause this video and click the link to a video that's going to be popping up here to check to see if I said that. And right now, that link is going to be popping up. And we did get pretty close to touching that. Not exactly, right? It got really close, not exactly to it, but even though it got close to it, sellers really pushed this price down. So we see it opened here, traded as high as here, as low as this, but it closed here. Now we look at the week prior into this this candle. Where was all the price action? Well, it was in the body, right? None of the price action came down here into the tail, and we're in like the upper 50% of the previous week's very bullish candle. What does that tell us? Well, this is a bearish sign, in the fact that it's trading in the top 50% here could be a little bit bearish. Maybe it kind of neutralizes it a little bit. Who really knows for sure? We just want to take note of that it traded in this upper half of the candle, not in this lower half of the candle, right? If it traded in the lower half of this candle and it was a very bearish looking candle, that's like we got two things. So down here at the volume, we see that there was about the same amount of volume as last week, and it was mainly selling volume, right? The 50-day moving average, here's our 200-day moving average over here. So that's what we have for the S&P 500. Now, just by looking at this, maybe we're going to get a bit of a sideways movement, or maybe more breakdown. Let's look at the technology ETF and see what that might tell us. Okay, volume was a little bit lower than last week, and we see that it also, technology stocks ETF also actually touched and went a tad bit over the 50-day moving average. And looking at the previous week's candle, we see that in the body of the candle, this part here, we see that the price action, we're past that lower half. Now when we look at the whole week's trading range, we're still in the upper 50% of that trading range, but in the body of the candle, we're in the kind of past that bottom 50%. Let's look at healthcare. Healthcare, you notice this one looks pretty similar to this one. This is a bit of a doji looking type of thing. Volume, same amount, a little bit less volume than last week, but tad bit less, almost the same amount. Last week's candle, that bullish candle, closed over the 50-day moving average. So even though this is a kind of a indecision candle, it's still above the 50-day moving average, which is a good thing. And this one right here, you see that kind of indecision? So is next week going to look like that? Are we going to kind of bump, go up just a little bit? We will see. Let's look at consumer discretionary. Volume, pretty much the same as last week, but a lot of selling volume. And we see it got not as close to the 50-day moving average, but started getting closer up there. Same thing here. We're trading in the upper 50% of the full trading range, but we're definitely moving into the lower half of the actual candle body. And then when we look at our final ETF, we're going to be taking a look at the financials. We see the volume was lower than last week, and even a little bit lower than 3 weeks ago. Not even really that close to the 50-day moving average yet. And we see that all the trading is in the that upper 50% of the candle and also upper 50% of the whole trading range. So what might this tell us? Okay, we see what's happening with the financials. Consumer discretionary is looking kind of similar there. And so my guess would be that what might happen is we're either going to see more selling come in, so have some drop in prices, or maybe a little bit of both, maybe some volatility, and we start kind of making a base that might look similar, maybe something similar to something like this or something here. Maybe we're going to be kind of building a base, or it could be some more, selling pressure come in. So looking at this, I personally would not be looking to make any directional trades at this moment for the way that I trade. Possibly what I would be looking to do would be selling, potentially selling out of the money options in either direction, depending on a variety of factors. And if you don't know it, I'm pretty partial to selling cash secured put options, but I'll sell covered calls, I'll sell naked options, I'll do a variety of things. So what type of option all kind of depends on what your situation is. But as I mentioned, I personally, for the next week I wouldn't be making any directional trades myself. By looking at these charts, I'd be looking at selling out of the money options in some degree. And the last thing I want to leave you with is go to ihavesuccess.com. There are 4 different free downloads you could get. As I mentioned, I love selling cash secured put options, so there's a guide to selecting stocks to sell cash secured put options on. There's also 3 different stocks that I consistently sell cash secured put options on and why I like them. There's a stock options Greeks cheat sheet, and my favorite, 3 underused tactics to transform your financial results. It's applicable to any aspect of finances. Once you download one or all of these, anytime I make something new, it'll be sent straight over to you. There's going to be some links popping up to playlist, cash secured put options playlist, all the rest of the weekly stock market weekly chart review playlist, and option trading information playlist. Go into whatever those playlists you like the most, start watching content, and do me a big favor, subscribe to this channel, and in the comments below leave a comment about anything that was confusing, anything that you disagree with, whatever the case may be, so that way you can help me learn as I try to help you learn. You guys have a fantastic night. Aloha.